right, and welcome back to the Kingcast. It's Stats time of the week to talk about economics and finance and markets with me, Frank Roach, host of the Kingcast, sponsored by the Economics Division of the Social Sciences Department, run by Mr. Tom Zobek. With me, as always, is my great team, Lily Ryan, Nicole, Roer on Econ and Finance. Good morning.
Good morning.
Jack Zipper, Rahill on Sports. Little boys, joined each week now by Lily Ryan, who's going to join again this week for more NHL talk. Jake Murphy was going to be with us, but he is having trouble joining us today. So hopefully he'll join us in a few minutes. We have a great guest this week, Mr. Adam Boaz from the Upper School English Department. It'll be a great conversation. As always, we're happy to be here with you. We hope you enjoy the Kingcast. Don't forget to tell your friends and family Kingcast at Campus Life page on kingschoolct.org. All right, we're going to get into two very hot topics right now. To start off the show, the hot topics, as always, we're talking about immigration and climate change, the Green New Deal, as Democrats in Congress push forward their agenda. And so we're going to start out with the Clean Future Act and what this means for the future here in terms of carbon emissions. Nicole, tell us what's going on in Congress with an effort to make our life better in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Roche. It was very clear that when President Biden was elected and the Democrats took control of Congress, that climate change was going to be a priority in Washington. This week, House Democrats unveiled the Clean Future Act. There are a host of initiatives to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the legislation, including establishing a national clean energy standard, requiring all retail electric providers to generate all of their power from zero-emission resources by 2050. This standard comes from President Biden's platform on clean power and coincides with the United Nations policy on climate change. The bill also offers energy efficiency targets for buildings, equipment, and appliances, and the transportation sector would likewise be required to transition toward a clean transportation system. Legislation at the federal level is considered crucial to have a unified approach to decarbonization. While there are currently some federal policies encouraging a transition to clean energy, such as the investment tax credit, much of the support for renewables comes from state renewable power standards, or RPS, which vary from state to state. Some states have very strong RPS policies, like New Jersey, while others don't have any, such as Florida. The Clean Future Act would not completely usurp states' authority in this area, but rather would allow them to manage their own plan to meet the 2050 goal. A national approach would give all consumers access to renewable power. Not everyone owns a home and can afford to install solar panels on their roof. By requiring electric companies to produce clean power, it gives everyone the chance to participate in decarbonization. The focus of the legislation on reducing the carbon emissions in the US is an important goal, but it does not come without significant costs. Someone has to pay for this transition to renewables. A number of states have reassessed their RPS programs after electricity bills started rising substantially, such as Arizona. For the Clean Future Act, the bill currently authorizes $565 billion to achieve its clean energy objectives. There are also risks to the stability of the electricity system from transitioning to renewables. Even Bill Gates, a staunch supporter of decarbonization, has acknowledged that we can't rely entirely on renewables. He is a supporter of nuclear power, which does not produce any greenhouse gas emissions. But nuclear does come with its own problems, including safety concerns. We saw rolling blackouts last summer during a heat wave in California, which has become dependent on solar power. People were cranking their air conditioner, but the grid did not have access to enough power from the solar farms when the sun was setting. The Clean Future Act looks to deal with these concerns by encouraging increasing investments in transmission infrastructure, energy storage, microgrids, and distributed generation. Maybe the biggest challenge of decarbonization is that it's a global problem. If the US spends billions on decarbonization, but the rest of the world, most importantly China, does not follow our lead, it will be much less impactful. As I mentioned, the Clean Future Act follows the UN policy on the standards for decarbonization, and if the legislation becomes law, the US will be leading by example. But decarbonization is a public good, and there are certainly risks of free riders where not all of the world follows and does not bear their share of the costs.
Nicole, you always try to bring a little bit of AP economics into your stories. I love that, of course. All right, Nicole, what do you think are the next steps the Biden administration will take, and what is your prediction for this legislation in terms of getting through Congress?
With the close split between Republicans and Democrats in Congress, there is potential for some controversy on this legislation as it works its way to President Biden's desk. Ultimately, I think this legislation will become law, and more than that, I know it will remain a priority for Biden throughout his term in office.
Okay, it's an important topic, right? We talk about this in economics. We talk about cost-benefit analysis, marginal cost, marginal benefit analysis more precisely. And that's a discussion that must be had when we talk about carbon emissions and the Green New Deal, right? We have to consider costs and benefits, and that's, I'm sure we're trying to do as best we can. All right, great topic as always. We have another really hot topic also right on the front pages today. Lily Ryan took some time to check in the Biden's immigration proposals and what's happening. Lily, tell us about this important issue developing on the southern border, what immigration plans the members of Congress have in mind.
So Biden's immigration bill faces an uphill battle in Congress. Immigration advocates and experts on both sides of the political spectrum do not expect President Joe Biden's immigration bill to pass in Congress. Potential contenders for gradual reform include an established path for Dreamers, reforming the agricultural worker program, and expanding employment-based immigration. The bill introduces an 8-year pathway to citizenship, and the legislation faces difficulty in the closely divided Congress, with lawmakers suggesting that a longer path may win more support. The bill proposes, like I said, an 8-year path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants who arrived in the U.S. by January 1st, provide an expedited path to citizenship for farm workers and undocumented young people who arrived in the U.S. under DACA, raise the per-country caps on family and employment-based legal immigration numbers, and increase funding for technology at the southern border. Democrats introduced the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021 on February 18th, and it will help 11 million undocumented immigrants broaden legal immigration avenues and reduce visa backlogs. Representative Linda Sanchez said, "All options are on the table, and we hope to pass robust immigration reform, but there are other great immigration bills that we also will be taking up and hopefully passing as well." Many Democrats are happy with this initiative, but believe that this has been a long time coming. Democrats hold thin majorities in both chambers of Congress, and the legislation would require a minimum of 10 Republican votes to prevent a delay in passing the bill in order to move it to a final vote. While advocates recognize that the comprehensive package is unlikely to pass, they see the bill as a starting point for legislative movement on immigration reform. For 2 decades, lawmakers have proposed bipartisan legislation called the DREAM Act that would provide a pathway to permanent legal residence and eventually citizenship for some young undocumented immigrants brought to the U.S. as children, known as Dreamers.
All right, great report, Lily. Very sensitive topic, right? Really tough to talk about. You got to be careful on both sides. I think both sides, again, this is another policy issue. We're just off on the numbers, right? Both sides believe in immigration. America's been, saved by immigration many times in the past. We like immigration. It's a matter of levels of immigration, right? And what's best suits for our economy. So really sensitive topic, but something that has to be discussed very clearly. So Willie, what do you think the GOP lawmakers think about this immigration bill?
Well, like you said, it wasn't a matter of what the bill is, it's the numbers. But Republican lawmakers and conservative groups opposed Joe Biden's immigration plan as massive amnesty for people in the U.S. illegally, underscoring that the measure will face a fight in Congress. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley, top Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee, said it's a massive amnesty for almost the entire population of illegal immigrants living in the United States, people who broke our laws to get it here and stay here.
So real tough topic to talk about, but something we must discuss. We do so objectively recognizing that we need immigration, just a matter of how much. All right, great reports as always. Okay, now it's time for our fun segment.
What did we learn this week?
All right, why don't we start off with Jack this time? Jack, tell us what you learned this week.
So in biology, I learned about the structure of DNA and how DNA and RNA are actually different. I always thought that they were like the same. So that's pretty cool.
That's some serious science stuff, right? I'm really into crime shows, and the DNA has changed catching criminals like unbelievable. So I really enjoy that stuff. All right, Rahill, what'd you learn this week?
In history class, I was researching about the Louisiana Purchase. So I kind of learned what it did for our country and how it, in the long run, kind of divided us.
Rahill, do you have any sense for how much we paid? Do you remember that by any chance?
I believe it's 15 million.
15 million, is that what it was? And so I'd like to do a quick calculation on current dollars, but that seemed to be a steal, yes?
Yes, it was.
Controversial, and something we're still dealing with today. Nicole, what'd you learn this week?
This week in my AP Lang class, which is my English class with Ms. Patton, I learned how to qualify an assertion in a synthesis essay, which is basically a somewhat fancy way of saying DBQ. And when you qualify, you explore other nuances to the assertion, making it more complex than a simple agree or disagree.
Yeah, I saw somebody working on that in advisory. Yes. Yep. And Lily Ryan, what'd you learn this week?
This week in Miss Ackley's U.S. history class, we learned about the impact that cotton had on the world during the antebellum era.
Yes, serious economic issue there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, good topics as always. Rahill and Jack, let's get some shout outs to your teachers. Rahill, who are you talking about?
Miss Yelton.
Miss Yelton and Jack?
Ms. Varghese.
Miss Varghese, thank you very much. And that is
What did we learn this week?
I say it every week, but I love that segment. It makes me smile every time I watch it. And so do my adult friends as well. All right, now it's time to check in our great King community. Nicole, start us off.
Congratulations to the math team for its outstanding tie for 4th out of 35 schools this season.
There will be an art and design career panel, which is on March 10th at 11 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. And then we have online career day, which is on March 31st from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m.
Thanks to all of our students who have been helping with our revisit days for accepted families, making videos and participating on Zoom panels. King is so proud of how creative and flexible everyone has been as we move through the most unusual admissions season.
Yeah, we did that this past last week on Thursday. We went on Zoom and talked to some kids. I know, Nicole, you were part of our little group for the investment club. So kind of fun to meet some of the new kids. And finish this off, Nicole.
The King debate team went 7-2 in their February meet. Standouts on the team were Sammy Cohen and Matthew Graham Brown, who placed 4th as a team out of 29, and Kenny Backus, who placed 3rd speaker out of 58.
All right, congrats to them. I think that's Mr. Ian Lear-Nickham who runs that debate club. So well done. Way to go, King team. All right, now it's time for King Sports. Rahill Jaiswal, Jack Zipper, and Lily Ryan. Start us off.
Thanks, Mr. Roche. And in the MLB, spring training has bloomed, and both New York teams are shaking off their rust and getting ready for the new season. On Thursday, the New York Mets defeated division rival Washington Nationals in an 8-4 thriller. It was a tight game up until the fifth inning, where Pete Alonso slammed a 428-footer past the fence to put the game on ice. Speaking of tight games, the Yankees game was a tie. Yes, I said that correctly. The Yankees-Detroit Tigers game ended in a final score of 1-1. Gleyber Torres homered in the 4th inning to open the scoring, but a late Tigers run was able to tie it, and it stayed that way. Interesting story in soccer right now is English soccer club Manchester City are on a 21-game win streak. Manchester City have been tearing up England, scoring 55 goals to only 8 allowed in that 21-game span. Their winning run is also unheard of in England, being 8 games more than the previous record of 13 set by Arsenal. City now sit in first position in the league table, but if they want to extend their win streak, they will have to face second place and crosstown rival Manchester United. That game will take place tomorrow at 11:30 Eastern Time. Rahill, what's going on in the NFL?
Yeah, in the NFL, J.J. Watt has signed with the Arizona Cardinals for 2 years and $31 million. Watt is sure to form a scary duo with Chandler Jones. Watt and Jones are both 1 and 2 for most sacks since 2013. This is sure to add some star power in an already loaded NFC West division. This move could also maybe push Russell Wilson out of Seattle, and it has been reported that he is unhappy with the Seahawks because of poor offensive line play.
So this week in the NHL, I'm going to be talking about a little bit of a hot topic, Jack Eichel. So Jack Eichel is the star center and current captain of the Buffalo Sabres. Eichel, who is now 24, was the 2nd overall pick in the 2015 draft. He's currently making $10 million a year, but only has 2 goals this season, and trade rumors have begun circling. Although it is unlikely right now, an NHL executive said that Jack Eichel is going to end up a New York Ranger. The Rangers played the Sabres on the 2nd and ultimately won 3-2, but fans were chanting, "We want Eichel," during the whole game. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him before the trade deadline. In other news, former Ranger Tony DeAngelo said that he would take a loan somewhere. Even though he signed a 2-year contract extension in October, his time as a Ranger was cut short because he got into an altercation with teammate Alexander Georgiev after a loss. This week, the Rangers also played the Devils and beat them 6-1 with a hat trick from Chris Kreider, his 2nd of the year, a goal from Brendan Smith, Pavel Buchnevich, and Alexei Lafreniere. Rangers goalie Igor Shesterkin also had a 34-save game. Today, the Rangers will face off the Devils again. Around the league, the Maple Leafs swept the Oilers in a 3-game series, outscoring them 13-1. In Chicago Blackhawk, Brent Seabrook retired due to injury after 15 seasons.
Okay, great sports report by all of you, of course. Great to have the NHL in part of this regularly now each week. Jack, 1-1, the Yankees, is that any kind of record or a recent record in terms of low scoring?
I honestly have no idea. It's spring training, and it's not really. There's not going to be any ties in the real season, but this is like very weird, like a very weird game.
That's the average score for a soccer game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And also Lily, or all of you, anyone, I saw a little thing yesterday. There was a hockey player, I want to say for the Penguins, who was called out for having a potentially stick that was longer than regulation. And then yesterday he came on the ice for the game and he had like a 10-foot stick. Anyone see that?
I did not. I didn't watch the Penguins game the other day, but I can look into that for like the
And so
next.
I think some former professional announcer called the guy out for having a stick that was centimeters too long. And so he came out for warm-ups the next game with like this 12-foot stick. It's really funny. Check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. All right, that's King Sports. And joining us now is Mr. Adam Boaz. Adam is an English teacher in the upper school. He is the upper school faculty liaison. He's the grade 11 dean. He's a coach, and he's a faculty advisor for the Pelican, the King School Newspaper Club. Adam Boaz, welcome to the KingCast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Great to see you. We had a little technical difficulties, watching a little later than we expected, but thank you for your patience. We really appreciate it. And it's great to have you on the KingCast. My sense is there's a renewed vigor and interest in the Pelican. Tell us about the club's development this year under unusual circumstances and the student leaders you advise.
Well, first of all, the Pelican is a wonderful new iteration of the student newspaper. One of the good things, I think, if we can say that about this pandemic, is students have shown themselves to be exceptional. And the student newspaper, as it was in a state of sort of moribund existence. It had not put out an issue in 2 years. And so when Joe's butler approached me before the school year started, they had a plan to bring it back. And there was a level of energy from Joe's and a level of expertise. I think it was a wonderful thing to do it in an online digital format. And all of that goes to Joe's and then the staff that they assembled. And so as a faculty advisor, all I did was sort of say, oh, that's a great idea. Go ahead and do those things. But the idea that in this difficult time, this odd time, that there would be this wonderful, vibrant thing that people can access that really is reporting on stuff that people want to see and want to hear and read about is wonderful. And of course, Joe's has been recognized for excellence in journalism with an induction to the Quill and Scroll Honor Society, and the staff and everything have been wonderful. But all that is due to one student sort of saying, I'm going to do something, and then assembling other students to get behind that. So I'm just very proud of that, and it's a very cool thing.
It's a great story. It only takes one sometimes, right?
Yes.
And of course, we enjoyed a renewed kind of excitement about the KingCast this year because of the pandemic, because we went video, which has been kind of fun for our team.
Yeah.
Lily.
Mr. Boaz, please tell our viewers about your new role as the U.S. Faculty Liaison.
So every school of our size, the faculty have issues. It's a hard job, and we want to do a good job at it. And obviously in the last calendar year, there's been issues with King and social media. There's been issues obviously related to COVID and sort of the same sort of issues that come up. And the faculty were really sort of united in thinking that they wanted and needed a voice, a representative voice. And that would have to be someone who's not afraid to sort of say things that need to be said, but also someone who's got some experience. And I've been fortunate in a 20-year teaching career to teach in special education and in a therapeutic setting where there's some behavior-related violence and issues. I've taught in the public school. I've taught adults. I've taught in the addiction setting, and also in independent schools. And so somebody who has been fortunate to have a wide range of experiences and perspectives, I felt like I could maybe offer those when people needed that sort of assistance. So I think that for teachers, we teach best, and that's our primary job, when we feel empowered, when we feel that we have a voice, when we feel that we can be represented. And not everyone is wired that way. And I happen to be wired that way. So.
Well, I know as one member of the faculty, we're proud to have you representing us, Adam. Make us proud, of course. RJ.
Mr. Boaz, what does a grade dean do, and how has that been impacted by the COVID protocols we place here at King?
So the first thing a grade dean does is make sure that the students in that particular grade, and for me it's grade 11, know what they need to know. I run class meetings with Mrs. Farrell. I make sure that juniors sort of know when college things are due and where to go and all that kind of stuff. So that's the primary function. The other function is to sort of talk to people when issues come up. So if someone is having an issue with getting to class or meeting the sort of standards that we have at King, those conversations can be friendly. Those conversations can be stern if they need to be, but sort of it's better than sort of saying you've done something wrong, which is rarely the case, but you've done something that might not have good outcomes for you, and here's why. In terms of COVID, obviously, I sort of have to make sure that we all enforce those protocols to keep us all safe. But for me, I think my job has changed the most. I find myself telling the students almost every day that they're doing a great job, because they are. And I think to be sort of the head cheerleader for my grade is kind of important, because the kids are doing wonderfully under incredibly difficult circumstances. And I want them to know that we as a faculty appreciate that.
Nicole?
Mr. Boaz, we have seen you on the athletic fields coaching soccer, lacrosse, and basketball. Will you be coaching this spring? And tell us your impressions of our new middle turf field.
I think the field is great. I wish we could play on it right away. I will not be coaching. I am spending a lot of time in my new position as a faculty liaison, and I'm going to keep doing that. And one of the things I know is that we have wonderful coaches, wonderful athletes. And what I will say is you will see me on the sidelines as you see me at all student events. And I can't wait until that happens, but I won't be coaching anything this spring.
Yeah, Adam, it's been a while since we saw each other watching a game together.
Yeah, and one of the first things I noticed when I started at King was I was like, who's that guy who's always at the game? And of course it was Mr. Roche, and we love to sort of see what the kids can do.
Yeah. All right, Adam, we'll let you out of here. One more question, though, if you don't mind. Now, Adam, on my King cast, I call it Mike because I'm the host at the moment.
Mhm.
I only promote economics courses, and my course in particular. Well, you teach a course that has caught my interest. You teach your poetry course at King.
Yes.
And it's got some real popularity. I know you have a real interest in poetry. I think you might have something for us today. I don't know about that. But tell us about your poetry class, your interest in poetry, and what students should think about that. So
I love poetry. I love the freedom that it gives. I love the emotional solutions that it gives. And when I got to King, I found out there wasn't really a poetry class that was offered. And I say this at the beginning of every poetry class, and I firmly believe it. Not everyone has the skill to write a novel. That's not something everyone can do. Not everybody has the skill to sort of write a symphony or something like that. But I honestly believe that every person has a poem inside them, and it's only having the sort of courage to let it out. And that's what the class is about. And so we study contemporary poets. We sort of learn about the craft, the art of poetry, but the students do a lot of writing, do a lot of sharing. And of course, it culminates with Poetry Night, which has been a successful event in the winter for the 3 years that I've offered the course. And I hope that continues. It's currently a senior elective, so that's sort of how it fits into the schedule. But it gives me great joy to treat poetry as an art form. I think it is.
Do you have anything you want to share with us today?
Well, I do, actually. I'll just share a snippet. So I'm currently working on a poem myself, and it's a poem that I'm imagining the time when we're back together without our masks on, doing all the things that make us a good school, being close to one another. And I really feel like that's something we took for granted. I know I did. And now we've lost it for a period of time. And so when we get that back, I think that there needs to be, for me at least, a sense of gratitude. And so I'm working on a piece called Gratitude Restored. And it's not finished. I'm picturing finishing it hopefully by September.
Okay.
And maybe reading it. But I'll read a little bit.
Please.
And it has to do with how we behave in COVID. And it is fine to pound the desk and raise the voice in language salt and stern, lamenting things we've lost. For that is what humans do. But what? Instead, to stop and breathe new breath and turn again to those on either side and smile and cry if cry we need and hug because we can, because that is also what humans do.
That is really nice, Adam. Wow. Huh?
Thank you.
How about that? And well delivered as well, Adam. I think the students are really going to enjoy that this week when they get to see the KingCast. And
Cool.
Thank you so much for taking your time on a Saturday morning to join us. It's a real pleasure. We'll see you back on campus.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so a great talk with Mr. Adam Boaz from the King English Department. a wonderful asset to the school, and of course, a poet. And now let's move right on to the economy and markets. We talk about data, we talk about price action. There's been a lot of data, a lot of price action. And of course, in the first week of a new month, we get the most important data point on the whole planet, the employment situation report for the U.S. economy. All right, Nicole, Roer, start us off for data ending the 5th of March.
On Friday, February employment situation report. Non-farm payrolls 379,000 versus 166,000 in January. U3 unemployment rate 6.2%. U6 unemployment rate 11.1%. Average hourly earnings up 0.2%. And the average work week was 34.6 hours. And the January international trade balance in goods services minus 68.2 billion versus minus 67 billion in December.
Okay, so good report on Friday for non-farm payrolls, 379,000, well above expectations and well above the past several months as well. So bright spots there in the economy. The sad part, so you have to look at the data. So the headline looks great, then we go and look at the details of the data. Most of that 379,000, 285,000 made up people going back to work as waiters and bartenders. So good news for sure for those people, but not the types of jobs that really, spring the economy forward. Go ahead, Lily.
On Thursday, initial unemployment claims week ending February 27th, 745,000 versus 736,000 in the prior week. Quarter 4 non-farm productivity down 4.2%, and quarter 4 unit labor costs up 6%. In January, factory orders up 1.7% versus up 1.9% in December.
Okay, really good news there. Factories are coming back online. Those are good data points, pandemic or not. Claims are a little lower. That's a good sign. We want to get below 700,000 as best we can. We got some problems in that Q4 data. Productivity down, unit labor costs up, not a good indicator for productivity, average labor productivity, and indicating inflationary pressures on the labor side.
On Wednesday, we have MBA mortgage applications week ending February 26th, up 5.5% versus down 11.4% in the prior week. And we also have February ADP employment report, which is 117,000 versus 195,000 in January, and February Institute for Supply Management Non-Manufacturing Index 55.9 versus 59.9 in January.
That was a mouthful, Jay-Z. Thank you for filling in for Jake there. RJ?
On Tuesday, there is no data.
And Jack, finish this off for us on Monday.
On Monday, we have January construction spending up 1.7%, up 1.1% in December, and February Institute for Supply Management Manufacturing Index 60.8 versus 58.7 in January.
Okay, good week of data. Slowly, good signs. Again, I'm predicting we're going to have a second wave economic effects coming forward, but incremental improvements are something we can get on board for sure. And now let's check on this week. Week beginning March 8th. Start us off, RJ.
On Monday, there is no data.
On Tuesday, there is no data.
On Wednesday, we have MBA mortgage applications week ending March 5th in February Consumer Price Index, along with the February federal budget balance.
On Thursday, we have initial unemployment claims week ending March 6th.
On Friday, we have February Producer Price Index and March U-Michigan Consumer Sentiment.
All right, so not a whole lot of data comes out. The second and third weeks of a month are a little bit light in terms of data. All right, as always, we want to connect data, okay, in terms of expectations and how markets react to that data. And that's where we track the price action in equities, fixed income, currencies, and commodities. This is for the week ending March 5th.
S&P 500, 3,741.94, up 69 points.
NASDAQ 12,920.15, down 272 points.
3-month Treasury 0.041%, unchanged.
10-year Treasury 1.577%, up 17 basis points.
30-year Treasury 2.309%, up 15 basis points.
Euro dollar 1.192, down 150 pips.
Dollar yen 108.34, up 176 pips.
Sterling 1.3840, down 90 pips.
Dollar CAD 1.2660, down 80 pips.
West Texas Intermediate $66.28, up $4.62.
Brent $69.36, up $6.45.
Gasoline $2.07, up 12 cents.
And gold, $1,698, down $35.
All right, so crazy week in equities. They should be lower, right? But the plunge protection team from the Federal Reserve came in on Friday and boosted stocks to go up for the week. So that was a little bit of silliness. Rates are rising. Yield curve is elevated from Fed funds out through 30 years, and the long end is even steeper. So inflation's coming, and fixed income markets are saying that. Dollar strength on the week on the back of rising interest rates. By the way, West Texas Intermediate is oil out of Texas, and Brent is oil out of the North Sea. And of course, gasoline prices are rising. We can see that at the pumps. All right, why don't we finish off the show this week with some friendly reminders? Start us off, Lily.
Do your reading.
Do your homework.
Come to class prepared.
Use your blinker when making turns or switching lanes.
Stop signs mean stop, and no texting while driving. All right, that's it for us. Thank you to our great team, Rahill, Jack, Lily, Nicole. We missed Jake this week. I'm sure we'll be back. We're going to be off for a few weeks. We're going on spring break. We're going to take a little break. We're going to reassess our pumpkin show today. And we'll be back with you as always. If you want to listen to KingCast, tell your friends and family. KingschoolCT.org, campus life page. That's it for us. Have a wonderful weekend.